Sick Harrison Price for Thursday, May 8th, 2025, coming to you from the Nation Network studio, built by Arbor Lee here at the Historic Wall Center. And this program, a presentation of Bet365. I'm Matt, this is Blake. Mike Rogerson and his 4 Juno Awards are hitting switches and conducting things alongside intern Jaden Taja. We have a big show planned for you on, a momentous, historic day.
The curtains
when the
shook.
Eyes of the world are on one spot and one person. And he's from the south side of Chicago. And he supports the Cubs.
He's not a White Sox fan?
He's Judas. I'm sorry. Before anybody takes
blaspheme.
That too. Yeah, exactly. Anyways, where were you when moment?
Yes.
American Pope. How about that? Wow. So there you go. Anything's possible, Canucks fans. Dare to dream. As we await the white smoke from Rogers Arena, we'll ask you the poll question. Do you want the next Canucks coach to have head coaching experience in the NHL? Yes or no? You can vote at the Sick Harrison Price X and YouTube channels. I must admit, I am quite torn by this question, so I'm going to kick it to you.
I think the answer will be yes. I'm not convinced that it has to be yes, but I think the answer will be yes. Because I think this management group is impatient for any level of reload/rebuild. I think they want to be a winning team next year, a playoff team next year. And to do that, they will feel most confident doing that with a guy that has been there and done that before. It might be kick number 2 at the can, a la Jay Woodcroft or something. I'm not saying it's going to be recycled old material.
Mm-hmm.
Gerard Gallant, Peter Laviolette, I'm not saying that. But I'm going to guess he's got NHL and head coach in the back of his hockey card.
Here's why I am torn. And it may be the undue influence of Spencer Carberry in Washington, who's going to win the Jack Adams. And I, like many out there hockey fans, yearn for a day of new blood with younger coaches and different approaches to the job than the retreads. So I sort of have it in my mind that, boy, it'd be great if the Canucks can find one of these guys, the next Spencer Carberry, whether that's Mitch Love, his assistant there on the Capitals bench, who is a very hot coaching candidate, whether that is someone from Jim Rutherford's past, like Mike Vellucci, the Pittsburgh assistant, whether that's someone like former Canuck Marco Sturm as an AHL head coach, or Todd Nelson, who had a itty-bitty bid in the NHL, but really has been mostly an AHL coach, or, of course, Manny Malhotra, who's doing great work down on the farm for the Canucks. So I have to say, to me, that would be the jackpot hire. If you get that first-time, young NHL head coach, different approach to the job, understands the players better because he's closer in age, and can be there for a long period of time.
I like that head coaching hire when you're a team that, if we make the playoffs this year, great.
Right.
We're really close.
Kind of like Ryan Huska last year with Calgary, who did a hell of a job. I mean, the goaltender was outstanding, sure, but
the Anaheim Ducks, this coming now, they've gone a different route with Joel Quenneville.
They sure have.
But if they had hired a guy like that, I could understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Canucks.
And yet, the flip side of my brain on this one is, boy, we just saw Rick Tocchet, who had 2 previous NHL head coaching stints, come in here and handle the market beautifully amongst conditions that, let's face it, very few, if any, coaches have had to deal with publicly. And I do think that Willie Desjardins, as well as Travis Green, would have been better off as Canucks coaches had they had a previous NHL head coaching stop. Look no further than Alain Vigneault. AV said it to us a million times. He was a super young head coach of the Montreal Canadiens. As a French Canadian, it was his dream job. He made some mistakes. He was totally blindsided by his firing. He went back into the scouting world where he didn't necessarily love the job. He went back down to the queue to start coaching. And by the time he arrived here in Vancouver, he was a ready-made, top of the top NHL head coach and won a Jack Adams, and to this day, of course, the most successful Canucks coach by victories.
There are always guys that surprise you. There are always guys that are more ready at whatever it is that they do in life than they should be given their experience. So
Correct.
You have to hold out for the outlier there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wally Bono had very little coaching experience, got the big whistle in Calgary, legendary career.
And a guy like Manny Malhotra might be that guy because, he was a successful player, not an elite player, but a successful player for a long time, smart guy. I don't think he'll be surprised. He's played in this Canadian market. He knows what microphones look like. I don't think any of that's a surprise to him. So he could be that kind of guy. But for a lot of guys that haven't had the full experience, you have to deal with not only the on ice but the off ice stuff. Mm-hmm.
That's big.
It's a lot.
Managing the personalities in your room, and then managing everything that sort of collides with that office. It's management. It's ownership. It's
media.
Yeah. It's team, and it's game day and arena ops. There are so many sort of skews that at some point intersect with the head coaching position and whoever is in that office within the operations of an NHL franchise.
Yeah.
And finding somebody who can move between all of those departments seamlessly, is good at all those different roles, it's a big ask. It's a very big ask. So look, the Canucks are engaged in this now. There is no shortage of names that have been connected with the job. At the end of the day, you voted yes on the poll?
Yes.
I voted no. Because I'm just going to leave it open to potentially the next Spencer Carberry. Not a prerequisite for me, NHL head coaching experience. I can understand the case for it, but and remember, Rutherford, a pretty progressive guy, right? For his age, he talked about when he first got the job here. Hey, got to adapt, got to reinvent yourself. The world moves on, attitudes, social norms change, and you've got to keep pace. You wonder if that's going to be reflected in this.
Let me tweak the question a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the new head coach will? So predictive rather than,
no, because I think they're going to go cheaper.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I put it this way. I think Manny is coaching himself into the job. I'm not sure if it's a slam dunk if he wins this round, he's going to be the Canucks head coach. But if he wins another one, I also think that Rutherford is probably going to want to hire somebody he knows, knowing it's his last coaching hire, could well be his last season in the NHL, and after everything that he went through this year. Mm-hmm. I don't think he would relish starting anew with someone he is getting to know, given the histrionics, given the drama this past season, and knowing that that's a wounded locker room to a degree, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I, as we sit here today, Blake, on May 8th, my headspace is around the Mike Vellucci's from the outside of things, the Manny Malhotra internally. I would not be surprised by either of those two guys being named head coach.
I would be blown away at this point if it's Vellucci. I don't think he's
I don't think you can discount the personal rapport there between. The other thing is, and somebody mentioned this to me, Rutherford is quite close with an agent by the name of Neil Glasberg, who represents Mike Vellucci. He also represents Pascal Vincent, the former Columbus Blue Jackets head coach. You may remember he got thrust into the job when Mike Babcock was unceremoniously fired for asking players to turn over their phones so he could look through them. Creepy as that is. Vincent did not cover himself, tough spot, but did not cover himself in glory. You may remember he was the guy who was continuously benching Kent Johnson, Bort Moody. Now, two ways to look at that. Number one, he gave the kid tough love, and look at the player now. He's terrific. Or, what are you doing? You got to play young players. You were hopelessly out of the playoffs. Stop being the tough guy head coach, dressing the fourth-line plumber when you can dress Kent Johnson, a first-round pick. So, yeah, I'll be interested to see how the voting on this goes today.
I
think most will want a.
I'm guessing people are thinking a guy with experience or Manny.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else, and they'll be disappointed.
Yeah, I think you're right. Top story brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. Canucks Conclave continues as one job comes off the board, and Tocchet reportedly going to get the pick of the litter. Anaheim hires Joel Quenneville. Last seen with the Florida Panthers, but of course most noted for his 3 Stanley Cup victories with the Chicago Blackhawks. The Ducks end Quenneville's time in NHL purgatory. Tocchet and Woodcroft were finalists for that job, according to Emily Kaplan of ESPN. Anaheim reportedly did investigation into Joel's role in the sexual abuse scandal with the Blackhawks. Before hiring him, Commissioner Gary Bettman reinstated him in July.
Surprisingly detailed statement from Pat Verbeek on this, saying, and he opens himself up to some criticism here.
I think he had to get detailed, though. I think pretending that it didn't happen.
No, for sure.
Joel was not.
I think he could have been more general, because he states in his statement that they concur with evidence in the past and evidence now that he was unaware of the severity of the issues back in 2010. He regrets not being more inquisitive and curious and finding out more, but he just didn't know. And so for them to dig up the old reasoning / excuses, I think opens them up to criticism. But I think there was also, I do concur that there was eventually going to be a time where Joel Quenneville found his way back in.
Yes, and a lot of it is competitive based. Let's not get it twisted. NHL teams are in the business of winning. They will hire bad people if it helps them win. I'm not saying Joel Quenneville is a bad person, but needless to say, some catastrophic mistakes in Chicago.
Yeah.
At the very least, that statement from Verbeek and that explanation from Joel Quenneville means, Coach, you were asleep at the switch.
Yeah.
You were the leader. You were in charge. You were ignorant. And your ignorance caused Kyle Beach and others great pain and suffering.
A tough lesson to learn, but because of the egregiousness of it, or you know, again, tough to rank egregiousness acts, but because it's not his smoking gun per se, I think it's reasonable to allow him back in the league. While some may not be wild about it, I understand that part too. But we'll see. Anyway, what this leaves us with is a trade bait board of coaches here.
Well, just before we leave Quenneville, it's difficult to cover all the ground in a statement, especially a statement that comes from the team.
Yeah.
When Joel Quenneville sits down to meet the media in Anaheim, we've been told he has done the work.
Yeah.
Over the last 5 years. I think it's going to be exceedingly important for Joel Quenneville to answer the question, what does done the work mean? Detailed. I want to hear what specifically he's done. With whom specifically? When? What were the revelations, the learnings? What does he look back upon now and regret? What would he do differently? All of those questions are pertinent, and I sure hope those questions aren't sloughed off. Gary and Bill have created a very much a slough-off, culture in the National Hockey League when it comes to scandal. You remember here a few years ago, those family court documents where Francesco Aquilini's kids allege he beat them. Bill Daley dismissed it as, it's a contentious divorce. That's not good enough. Hold your people to a higher standard, or hold your people to a standard. So we'll see if Quenneville can pass that part of the test.
Now, Rick Tocchet has not been considered the prime candidate available up until this point, because until this point, you've had Stanley Cup winners like Mike Sullivan available and Joel Quenneville, and there is still Peter Laviolette available. But it certainly sounds like the murmurs and rumblings are, Matt, that if there was a coach bait board, Rick Tocchet would probably be the number one guy right now available.
Well, that is what Frank Saravelli is saying on the DFO pod today. I think Rick Tocchet has the coaching world eating out of the palm of his hand. I think he's going to have multiple mega offers that are game changers for the coaching pay scale. That is surprising.
It's really surprising.
I think teams are going to sit and wait until they get an answer from Tocchet. Look, I understand Tocchet interviews well, presents well. He's a guy you want to be around. I mean, think of the way Rutherford and Alvin talked to him. He was on a pedestal. So I can understand NHL GMs, presidents, owners falling hard for Rick Tocchet. I'm a little surprised to see Frank saying he's going to reset the coaching market, that he's going to get. I mean, what's Sullivan making now with the Rangers?
Matt, I'm flabbergasted. And again, I don't want to be too heavy on Rick. I didn't agree with a lot of stuff that he did, but I don't think he's a bad coach. I just don't think he's walks on water to go back.
He's
to
not
the,
Scotty
to
Bowman.
the book.
He's not Scotty.
Yeah. He's not Scotty Bowman. He has no proof of concept. Like, he's won one playoff round.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how well he interviews at that point, Matt. He is not proven that he can win.
Not as a head coach.
No.
Not as a head coach.
That's the most important thing here.
Yeah. Jimmy Murphy, longtime Boston scribe, reporting that Tocchet is a prime candidate for the Bruins. I mean, I think everybody sees the fit there. Rick would fit very much with Bruins culture, as he does with Flyers culture, and Pittsburgh.
But how quickly can you turn around that team?
Yeah.
That team does not look close.
Our friend Irv Kafar reporting that Marco Sturm has interviewed with the Vancouver Canucks. Now, Marco Sturm is an ex-Canuck by the hairs on his chinny chin chin. Played 6 games with the Vancouver, made the team on a PTO.
Yeah.
And then you may remember, wasn't playing a whole lot, was towards the end of his career, was part of the package sent to Florida for David Booth. And wasn't that a fun chapter in Canucks history?
Oh, my gosh.
David Booth.
So Marco Sturm has played 6 more games for the Canucks than we have. And he gets to be called the next Canuck.
He has entered the coaching ranks. He coaches the Ontario Reign of the American Hockey League. That's the LA Kings farm team. Alas, they were swept in the opening round of the HL playoffs as the 3rd seed by the 6th-seeded San Jose Barracudas. They scored just 1 goal in 2 playoff games, so not exactly a final push for Marco.
No, but he had the people really riled up there. He really gathered their attention, didn't he?
Well, their building was unavailable for the playoff games because of an ice show, so they went to Crypto.com Arena where the Kings play, and they drew 1,200 and 1,600 fans.
Just to try to get a picture of what 1,200 fans looks like.
If your fan base is in Ontario and they get Ontario, California, and they got to drive into downtown Los Angeles to go to your game.
Okay, so
that's a huge commitment.
It's a playoff game. It's a playoff game.
It's a first-round AHL playoff game.
No. I'm not talking about what they did, any fans did wrong. I'm talking about if you're an Ontario player and you're skating out of the ice in a playoff game, 1,200 people at Crypto is like everybody at your dining room table at Rogers Arena. That's the equivalence, because that place plays huge.
Oh, it's an enormous facility.
The footprint is probably 30%, if not more, than what Rogers Arena is.
It is a very big building.
So, an empty experience, I would assume, for those AHL games. Hey, Marco Sturm, I'm sure, has some potential in the NHL, but to this point, his resume is really indiscernible from Manny Malhotra's. They know Manny Malhotra inside and out, and people got back to me on social on that about, but because of that, they may not like Manny Malhotra for the job.
Yeah.
That might be true, but right now he's having a lot more success than Marco Sturm is, and their resumes read pretty much the same. Both have multiple years on an NHL bench as an assistant, and now both are AHL coaches with limited experience. Marco Sturm's got 3 years, 2.5, and Manny Malhotra the 1 year.
Yeah. Now, Rutherford did note in that John Shannon interview on 100% Hockey with John Shannon and Darren Millard, a mix of NHL and AHL experience. Interesting, the AHL part. Suggests they do want a coach who's got some experience working with young players and prospects.
Which is fair, given where the Canucks are at right now.
Right.
Introducing some youth.
And let's face it, most NHL coaches will have had some time in the AHL, right?
Most, yeah.
It is usually part of the pathway. Some go directly from junior hockey or college hockey, but a lot would have AHL.
Marty St. Louis from minor hockey.
From youth hockey in Connecticut.
The express route. The Nexus line.
Marty, we really love what you've done with your Bantams this year. How would you like to be head coach of the Montreal Canadiens?
Yeah.
But he had a very good year, St. Louis.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Which brings us to Pascal Vincent, who we've mentioned. And another name I want to mention here who's also been connected, Todd Nelson. Had an itty-bitty interim run, well, it wasn't that itty-bitty, with the Edmonton Oilers. This was 10 years ago when you may remember, and for younger viewers, listeners, the Edmonton Oilers were the biggest punchline in the NHL for damn near a decade. They were horrible on the ice. They won multiple lotteries to draft first overall players, and they still couldn't get it right. They went through a number of managers. They went through coaches like nobody's business. And Todd Nelson was the first coach to drop in there that got the ball moving forward a little bit, even with a not very functional front office around him. Record wasn't great, but by Edmonton standards at the time, it was better, and they were starting to show some progress amongst young players.
He was just an interim. He was an interim.
He was an interim. They got rid of him. They hired Todd McClellan. That didn't work. There's been several coaches since then. But Nelson has won the last 2 Calder Cups with the Hershey Bears. He's won 3 Calder Cups.
3 of the last 8.
As a head coach. He won one in Grand Rapids. He even won one as an assistant with the Chicago Wolves way back when.
3 of the last 8 AHL trophies have been won by him.
He also won the championship in the old IHL back-to-back. So this guy's done a lot of winning. He was pretty well regarded 10 years ago when the Oilers hired him. It's kind of a bit of a surprise that he hasn't found his way to an NHL head coaching job since then, although he's worked on as an assistant. And that's another guy where second time, probably richer and better for the first experience.
Easy knows he played for the IHL's Muskegon Lumberjacks. He coached for the UHL's Muskegon Fury. United Hockey League.
Okay. Anyways, I know he had won championships at yes, as he was working his way up the minor and semi-pro.
And all that matters. I mean, it all matters.
You know, John Cooper, his resume was not exactly teeming with big-time coaching experience when he got hired in Tampa. What did he do? Well, in the USHL, he won.
Well, I mean, this guy does.
And then at the AHL, he won.
He does risk being just the AHL Scotty Bowman here, but looking at all of his head coaching experience, Matt, his worst winning percentage as a head coach in the UHL, the AHL, And even the NHL, what was it? No, the Oilers,
NHL was
one
like
would have been the
4
worst.
something. It was not great.
But as a full-time head coach, his worst winning percentage is .546.
That's his worst year.
That's his worst year. Like, we're talking 600s, 701 case in the UHL.
Yeah. I remember being surprised when Edmonton didn't retain him. I was like, you finally got a coach who started progressing the franchise a little bit. They wanted a veteran guy. It didn't work out. Anyways, as we discuss all these names that I'm sure many of you had never even heard prior to Rick Tocchet walking away from the Canucks, a reminder that 1 year ago today, the Canucks erased a 4-1 Oilers lead in Game 1 of the second round, won the game 5-4 on quick goals by Zadorov and Connor Garland. That's where we're coming from here, Vancouver.
21 years ago today.
No,
that happened.
1 year ago.
I think it was.
I've seen you use this joke on Twitter. It's amusing.
I'm allowed to recycle.
Yeah, no, that's it. You get one recycling, and that was it.
You can bring it from social to the show.
Yeah, I do it all the time.
Anytime you want,
I
but
do
only
it all
once.
the time.
Yes.
Sometimes I test the material on social and then bring it to the show. Sometimes it works so well on the show, I bring it to social. Hey, content.
Content is king.
Content
is king. All right, let's tell you what's happening at Yellow Dog because we just got our delivery.
Thank you, Dan.
Fridge is getting replenished.
He was upset it wasn't an Irish Pope, though. He said the boys back home were really putting money down at the local book on the Irish Cardinals.
Maybe they're worried about their focus. I don't know. Yellow Dog Play Dead IPA 4-packs on special for the month of May. Look for it on sale at private and government liquor stores. You said you had a Play Dead the other day.
I did.
Hopefully it was on special.
And look, I'm a lapsed Catholic, so I indulged a little bit, but when you're betting on the Pope.
Yeah. 325 to 1, apparently.
Are you also like booking a spot at the confessional at some point during the week? That's got to be a sin, right? I put money down on who will be the next Pope.
It's not a commandment, but it's probably it's probably on the
lowercase s sin.
Honor roll
Right.
commandments. Got to be there somewhere.
It's a subhead within a commandment somewhere. It's got to be.
Section C.
Right. One shall not wager on the papacy.
Oh, man.
The Abbotsford Canucks, they continue to be a great story under head coach Manny Malhotra, and they continue winning games in the Calder Cup playoffs. 3-1 in Game 3 last night at Abbotsford Center. They defeat Coachella Valley. They take a 2-1 series lead in their best-of-5 second-round matchup. Goals by Nathan Smith, Kirill Kudryavtsev, we'll hear from him in a minute, and PDG into an empty
We were
net.
waiting for a young Canuck to play a pivotal role in one of these wins, and there it is, the game winner from Kirill Kudryavtsev on a night where, yes, Lekarmaki played, by Klimovich, the leading goal scorer on the team, was scratched.
So we were waiting on a pivotal.
Weren't we? I was.
The prospects were not very good in Game 2. The prospects were pretty good in the first round. So we were waiting 2 games.
Were they pretty good?
Well,
Ratu hasn't scored yet. Klimovich had 1 goal.
Well, we were talking about all those kids who were scoring in the first round. Sasson had some big games. It
was okay. It was Baines and Blay and Wolanin and
Jujar.
Jujar's been on fire. Like, still pretty veterans.
Klimovich and others were scoring, and
he's 1 goal, no assists. That's it.
I mean, Sasson's got 4 points in 6 games. Yeah, that's so bad.
Again, he's sort of middle-aged on the prospects side of things. One of the young guys.
Ratu, we've heard so much about his struggle. It's just 3 assists in 5 games. That's not bad.
And he didn't play last night, apparently.
No, he's hurt. Linus has 4 points in 6 games. Again, not terrible.
No.
Mueller, a couple points in 6. Anyways, Coachella Valley had the first 8 shots of this hockey game. The Baby Canucks certainly did not come out the gates flying at home.
Second time they've done that in the playoffs.
And at home, too.
Yeah.
Coming off a win. Coming off a loss. Abby did not register a shot until the 15-minute mark of the first period. And then the second shot went in. Sammy Blais with an assist. He leads the AHL in playoffs, actually, now with 7 points. Lekramaki returned, although, if I'm not mistaken, did not factor a whole lot. They don't keep ice time.
He had an
assist. He had an
goal.
assist.
Yeah.
No shots on goal for Lekramaki.
Which was part of his problem right before he got injured with the dental thing, is he was just not shooting.
Right. But, here's the thing. We can pick nits about prospects and their contribution to victory here. The Canucks played this game without Jet Wu and Christian Wolanin. That is a lot of AHL games that was missing from the blue line last night. I mean, you can oftentimes, win. Lawrence Gilman told us yesterday that in the AHL playoffs, the coaches tend to lean more on the AHL journeyman veterans. And it's not like the Canucks are devoid of those guys. Hirose, McWard, Brisebois, I think would all qualify. But, missing Wu and Wolanin. Wolanin, of course, has been a great scorer down there from the blue line, as well as Aatu Räty. Hey, they overcame some guys who you would have thought would be important pieces in a playoff run. And yes, as you mentioned, Klimovich scratched. Let's hear from Kirill Kudryavtsev. He's dipped his toe in the NHL. He's had an awesome season with the Abbotsford Canucks. He has done so well since being a 7th-round draft pick. And he was talking about just this, team depth.
That's our strength for our group. That's what our coach always says. I'm just looking at our lineup, and I'm looking at the guys who are sitting out or who are injured, and I'm like, holy, we have another roster basically to play in the playoffs on. So that feels great, and that also motivates you to play good, because if you're not playing good, there's really good guys who can step up and take your spot. So.
First of all, kid's got a lot of charisma.
Mm-hmm. And it speaks well.
And 21 years old, Russian. His English is fantastic.
Yeah.
3 years with the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds in the OHL, so immersed in that environment. But he came to North America in 2021, and his English is that spot on. Well done.
We our feelings about plus minus, but he leads the team at
right.
+6. He started the year on fire in the regular season points-wise, and he got points in junior as well. The points dried up as the season wore on, but apparently he's defending only improved.
Blake, he's +6 in the playoffs, leads the team. He was +18 in the regular season, led the team.
Yeah, so, those trends you can start to connect some dots there.
Yeah, if you do it long enough, at some point it tells you something.
Yeah.
So good on Klimovich. And then the goaltending story. Artur Shilov's pulled in game 2, you may remember. Gave up a couple of early ones, got yanked at the intermission till Lapila went in. So part of the question was, how had Artie bounced back? He was really reaffirming his stake in the ground as the number 3 organizational goaltender for the Vancouver Canucks. And you may remember that was a little bit under question. They called up Tolopila late in the season. He played. Artie, of course, had such horrible performances in the NHL regular season outside of Chicago. Beat the Blackhawks twice. That was it. Those were his wins. Artie got right back on a horse. 26 shots, 25 saves, and he gave a lot of credit to the skaters in front of him.
Sure, it's like games getting tougher, guys getting tired, but, we committed. We did a lot of good things. We blocked a lot of shots, good box outs, and that's what contributed for the win.
921 save percentage so far in these playoffs. I mean, he is absolutely restoring some faith in his game.
And I've got to hand it to NHL player agents or advisors, as they call them in a certain age. They really have these kids learning English. I mean, Artie too. His English is fantastic.
Yep.
Out of Riga, Latvia. He's been here 2 more years than Kudryavtsev. He arrived in North America in 2018 with the Bear Colts. Very pleased to see that for She Loves. I gotta say, I find myself rooting for She Loves.
Yeah.
The performances last year in the playoffs, I like the personality there. Well, even before that, the NHL cameos. I like the personality there.
Well, in the World Championships too.
The World Championships was an amazing story for him and his home country.
He clearly has some game, and depending on what this turns out to be, Matt, I think you can start to paint him in that. Like there are a lot of look at some of the best here, and Hellebuck's the latest example. There are a lot of great goalies that have not been great in the playoffs in their careers. Is he an opposite guy? Mm-hmm. Is he going to be a good NHL goalie who's great when the chips are down?
God, you hope so.
Because that's sort of the trend we've seen here. He steps up in the NHL playoffs last year. He's had a magical World Championship run. And now what's going to be their fate here in the AHL playoffs? We'll see.
And it may just be a concentration thing, huh? That
he
is
Tuesday in November's hard, but when I know that it's on, then I'm on.
Yeah. Game 4 goes tomorrow at Abbotsford Center with the home team having a chance to advance to round 3. And if they're unable to do that, then it will be Sunday at 7 p.m. for the deciding Game 5. And what's at stake here is a chance to advance. They would face the winner of the San Jose, Colorado series in the Pacific Division. San Jose, the aforementioned 6th seed that upset Marco Sturm's 3rd-seeded Ontario Reign. Colorado, the number 1 team in the Pacific Division all season, or at the end of the season, it was the team that the baby Canucks were chasing down the stretch. They weren't quite able to catch them. That's the farm team of the Colorado Avalanche,
who Gabriel Landeskog played a couple of games with at the end of the season.
That's correct. Did just enough to keep them in first place from the hard-charging Abbotsford Canucks.
Right.
The Stanley Cup playoffs, and we have got to talk about Mikko Rantanen. Another hat trick.
Crazy.
That's 3 straight games with hat tricks.
It's absurd.
Most consecutive goals scored or assisted on in the Stanley Cup playoffs. You'll remember, Rantanen was in on all 4 of those Dallas goals as they came back to beat Colorado in Game 7. And he had a 4-point period in the previous game as well. He has scored or assisted on 12 consecutive goals for the Dallas Stars. That's not only an NHL record, it obliterates the previous mark of 9 held by a guy you may have heard of, Mario Lemieux. He's leaving Mario in his dust. If the Dallas Stars are scoring, Mikko Rantanen is involved on the goal.
And yet, still surprising to me is he has a 1-goal lead on McKinnon for goals in the playoffs, just a 1. And he's only 2 points up on McDavid and Nylander for points. So he has been absolutely rip-roared over the last 3-4 games. We'll see if that can continue.
Let me correct myself. It's not 3 straight hat tricks.
No, it's
2 straight hat tricks. It was 2 straight 4-point games, 4-point periods.
Yeah.
Followed up by a hat trick game. His points the last 4 games, 3, 4, 4, 3.
And I'll admit, Matt, when he got traded to the Hurricanes, I did wonder how much was he a product of environment. Not that he was going to be a bad player, but just I wondered what level. Was he merely an 80-point player?
He was great before Makar got there. No. I was always a huge believer. One of the few true power forwards in the game.
No, but an 80-point player is a great player. So I was just wondering, is he an 80-point player or is he a 110-point player?
I think he's a cut above an 80-point player. He's absolutely a cut above.
He's reasserting himself as such.
And Blake, I mean, this is a story now that could live in Stanley Cup playoff lore, right? You get traded from the only team you've ever known and helped win a Stanley Cup to Carolina in a mind-blowing deal. That caught everybody by surprise, right? You're not willing to sign a contract extension in Carolina, so they have to move you within a few weeks to Dallas. You have to think the guy's head is spinning, and then, lo and behold, you're playing your ex-teammates in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. You beat them with a 4-point period hat trick in Game 7, and now you're a Conn Smythe candidate. Like, if Dallas wins the Cup this year, holy cow. I want to read the book from Mikko Rantanen on his experience this season.
So he gets traded out of Colorado with 64 points in just 49 games. Goes to Carolina, 6 points in 13 games.
He was not particularly a fit
Didn't
with
work.
Rod Brindamore hockey.
Goes to Dallas, better, 18 points in 20 games. And now he's back to his Colorado pace, well over a point per game here in the playoffs with his 15 points.
So, Blake, let me ask you a bigger picture question here, building off Rantanen's performance. The conversation in recent years has picked up in terms of Stanley Cup winners. You need difference makers, right? Like, we've seen it. Several years ago, go back to the trade deadline, GMs didn't even want to give up second-round picks. They were looking to, fiddle on the edges. Let's get a character grit guy there, maybe a third-line center, maybe a second pair of defensemen. You didn't see GMs quite as ready to take the huge swings on the star players because they didn't want to pay the prices or they were afraid of losing them as UFAs and whatnot. If Rantanen continues to do this and puts Dallas over, are we going to see a summer where GMs are like, well, we thought we needed a couple of middle six forwards, but after seeing Dallas lift the cup and Rantanen playing a role like that, to hell with that. Who's the biggest name on the block? We need the best goal-scoring winner. We need the best center. What the highest-end defenseman we can bring in. Are we going to see GMs extra motivated to add stars above all else this summer?
I mean, it's why I poo-pooed sort of any coach taking that Seattle job. I just don't see stars there. And if you're the Vancouver Canucks right now, it's the one thing you might cling to because you potentially have 3 of them, potentially, in Demko and Hughes and Pettersson.
Well, that was my next question. If it is a summer shopping spree for stars, is Elias or Thatcher with their high ceilings, does that increase their trade value?
Well,
does that get more people come calling on those guys?
I hear your mouth on that, but the cynical view of that is, does anybody still believe that? You have to have somebody that believes in it. And
I think there are still believers in Elias Pettersson.
There might be. I don't think it's
Thatcher,
a huge list.
Thatcher, I think, is a smaller list because of the injury. Injuries, plural. Don't get me wrong. I think there's a lot of GMs out there that would be doing backflips to get Thatcher Demko as their starting goaltender. But you have to proceed with caution and prudence.
Yeah.
After all the injuries with Thatcher. I'm not sure you can put a stake in the ground, give up a significant trade package for a guy going into his final year who has had so many injuries over the last. I just don't see that as a politically savvy move for an NHL GM, even if you've had goaltender problems in the past. But we'll see. And then, we have a mutual friend, Blake, who texted me before the start of the Stanley Cup playoffs and said, have you emotionally prepared yourself for a Toronto Maple Leafs run? And I went, damn. Because the Leafs have had better teams on paper, and yet there was a undercurrent this year, subtext, and it started to get picked up and shouted, of course, from the Toronto megaphones far more, that this team is just the way it plays, the attention to detail, the defensive side of the puck is all a little bit more conducive to winning in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And
experienced head coach, too, in deep runs.
Yeah, no, exactly. And look, through a series and a bit, it's proven true here. They won their first-round series. They won a lot of tight games. They're up 2-0 on the defending Stanley Cup champions after last night's victory. Now, Bobrovsky was shit. This is why Florida's in the hole. So let's not give the Leafs too much credit. But they won the game with the second goaltender last night, Blake. So
it's tough to repeat.
I was listening to the sort of the post game towards the end of the game on radio. Chris Tanev is getting a lot of praise for some of the work they're doing defensively.
It's crazy. He just doesn't age.
Carmen came in the other day. She's like, I thought you told me that Tanev guy was done.
The year was 2018 when you uttered that.
No, full mea culpa. Mayor of Wrongville on that one.
I know people don't want it. I am curious enough to see what it would look like. I actually lived in Toronto the last time
So did I.
they went to the conference final.
2002 against Carolina. The city thought, here it is. Here's our cup team. We have this itty-bitty Sunbelt nobody to beat in the Eastern Conference Finals. And then they went down to Raleigh. And poor Pat Quinn had a health matter, a heart scare. And Rick Lee had to coach. And that was that. They did not win that series.
Yeah.
Also, the previous time the Leafs had been in the conference final, 99, Dominic Hasek in Buffalo. The impenetrable wall of
You
Dominic.
weren't going to win that one.
Except Hasek gets hurt early in the series. I forget, was it Dwayne Rollison or Steve Shields beats them in 5 games?
Had to have been Rollison. Steve Shields? Nah, couldn't have been.
Steve Shields came in for Hasek a couple years later, if I'm not mistaken, and beat the Senators in a first-round series.
What would the country look like? Because there's enough Leaf fans here in Vancouver, obviously.
Oh, they're everywhere.
What would the country look like if even they just made it to the Cup final?
It's Dwayne Rollison.
Never mind win it.
Yeah.
What would that even look like?
I don't know. Blake, there's a Leaf bar in Kitts. It's owned by Toronto people. All the Leafs fans know that they play the games with volume, and you can be around like-minded people. We're in there having brunch a week ago Saturday, and I say to the manager, I know her a little bit. I go, you expecting big crowds here for the? And she goes, oh, we don't have a seat available. I'm like, excuse me? She's like, this was before game 1 in the center. She goes, all 4 games, we do not have a table available. Oh my God.
Okay, let's draw this here. Folks, your Canucks are not involved anymore. So, you can choose to pay attention to the NHL playoffs. You can choose to hate watch. Is there any part of you that wants to put the ingredients into the bowl here and see what happens on a variety of fronts? Never mind just tormenting Gary. Edmonton versus Toronto.
I thought about that yesterday. If ESPN and TNT had to do a Winnipeg-Toronto or Edmonton-Toronto Stanley Cup final, oh my God.
But here's the thing. At Edmonton-Toronto, you literally have some of the biggest stars in the league, at least. Like, you do have that.
And importantly, a big American star.
That's right. So you could market Austin Matthews.
Market the shit out of Austin Matthews.
But also, I think the nation would tear itself to threats.
I gotta say,
oh my gosh.
I know I'm in the minority. I know this will be unpopular with the staunchest Canucks fans. I do root for the Canadian teams in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I've lived in 5 of the 7 NHL markets, so I've got history, attachment, affection to many of them. Not to mention, as you were saying last week, whenever it was, you have friends and family members who are rooting for a tapestry of the Canadian 7, right? I mean,
or live in the
exactly. Plus, and you and I have gotten a chance to experience in multiple Canadian markets, including this one. There's nothing like a Canadian city when the local NHL team is making a Stanley Cup playoff run. Everything about town is better. The spirit, the socializing,
the game day vibes, and the
game
patios.
day vibes.
Oh, so
You've
good.
always got
you
something
remember,
to look
folks.
forward
You
to.
remember.
It is such an amazing energy, the crackle and excitement that's in the building, that surrounds the building, hours before puck drop. You've got the build up. So
Olivia in the chat says,
I got to say, I struggle a little more with Toronto and Edmonton having that. But
Olivia in the chat, Edmonton versus Toronto. I'm cheering for Toronto 100% of the time. Folks,
we have asked this poll in the past.
We'll cross the bridge when we get to it. I honestly think that would be pretty amazing content. Oh, my gosh.
Let's get to today's menu. It's brought to you by Greta. Fantastic spot to watch all the games, including these hockey games we're telling you about. Your steps from the arena, stadium, district. They got the weekly drink specials, awesome street food menu. The poutine is decadent. The arcade, hours of fun. Check it out, 50 West Cordova. Going to talk to Jeff Marek here. He's in Washington for the Capitals-Canes series, and then Rob Williams. And we tried to suggest, shame on us, that Seat Beat was coming to a close. It has been Rob Williams' pet project for 7 years, the seats at Rogers Arena. There is news there, new evidence this week of the new black seats. And we're like, Rob, what are you going to do without Seat Beat? And he's like, whoa, stop right there. I still got months of Seat Beat left, not to mention little offshoot storylines left, right, and center.
What would you pay for a maroon seat?
There are 18,000 maroon seats that need a new home.
See, they would have to pay me to haul the junk away to the dump.
Absolutely. I'm not a junker. I'm trying to get less knickknacks, less clutter in my apartment. All that is coming up on the program, including, our final segment is one for the ages today. A Pope from Chicago who's a Cubs fan and went to Villanova.
There's some sporting ties.
Yes. Never before have we had this.
No.
Sporting ties. And look, the last Pope, he was Argentine. Who won the World Cup? Just saying.
You think they're going to go 2 straight? He's also got another...
I don't like America's chances next year.
He's also
in the North
Peruvian,
World.
so he's got 2 horses in the race, potentially.
I still don't like Peru's chances either. But this is the first time we've been able to talk about a Pope. Even as a baseball fan, Blake.
Yeah. That's not really a papal sport.
No. The sport of baseball is more than 150 years old. The papacy is centuries old. Finally, they converge.
Millennia.
Yes. Finally, they converge.
Mm-hmm.
Corner of Waveland and Addison, north side of Chicago. So all that's coming up. Let's get to our Bet365 bets of the day. And Blake, I have been absolutely god-awful here this week. So take it away.
I'm going to look at, I made the same bet. I'm going to plug it again because the number got bigger.
Mm-hmm.
A home dog in the Washington Capitals. I don't think they win the series. I'm comfortable admitting that. But if they're going to win a game, it's this one. Plus 145 on the Capitals.
I'm going completely away from hockey because I just can't get a win there. I'm really eyeing Minnesota tonight because Golden State is without Steph Curry. It's 10.5. It's a little rich, but I'm going to go there. And then tomorrow, look, Cleveland had a unbelievable season. Their starting 5 is really good. I'm not sure it's a team built to win in the playoffs. They lost the first 2 games at home. They had Indiana dead and buried in game 2 and somehow lost, much like the Celtics here, reeling after 2 straight home losses and big comebacks from the Knicks. I'm getting 2.5 at home with an Indiana team that's up 2 buzz, and that crowd is going to be banging for blood, knowing this is the kill shot. If you win this game, you're going to the Eastern Conference Finals. So give me the Pacers tomorrow at plus 2.5.
Did you see OKC won by 111 points last night?
OKC was angry that they lost the first game. OKC was very, very angry with the way they won the first game.
And credit to the 2 Canadians. It was in the first quarter because they won the game in the first quarter, which you do not often say in the NBA.
Yeah.
The game was over in the first quarter, and it was Dort and SGA that had double-digit points in the opening 9 minutes of the quarter. They sat Dort for the rest of the game pretty much.
Yeah, and why not?
Because the game was over, and SGA only played 29, 30 minutes too.
Tough matchup for them. Jokic is not he's not an easy guy to defend with the way he plays, but championship medal, of course, on that Denver team. But I was pleased to see that because I'm rooting for Shea and Dort, the Canadian kids there. Want to get in on the action of the Stanley Cup playoffs at Bet365? They got you from game props, player props, totals, money line. You bet conference champions, series winners, cup champions, and more. Whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game, an official partner of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Must be 19 or older. Jeff Marek coming up next. It's Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center, and this next segment brought to you by the Arnold Palmer Design Whistler Golf Club. They open tomorrow. Get yourself to Whistler and the Whistler Golf Club. The spring preparations are just about done. They're accepting bookings online for the entirety of the 2025 season, so get your tee times on hold, and particularly if you have a group of 12 or more. Those times fill up quite fast over the summer. You're going to want to get on that now. Fill them out, get them on hold, and then tell the Whistler Golf Club about your group. WhistlerGolf.com/groups, and follow on social media at Whistler Golf. I'm going to be much nicer to Jeff Merrick this week. It was overkill last week. It was a couple of admonishments. I maybe went too far. And he's been kind enough to carve out time as he is in Washington for the Capitals Hurricanes series. So thank you for that, sir.
My pleasure. I like the admonishments. I trust me. I like that. I like there's the old dojo saying the protruding nail gets hammered down. I always appreciated that about you, Matty. I always appreciated you hammering down
of our
the
brand.
nail.
It's kind of our brand here.
You're our Mr. Miyagi. So.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
Hey, you
bam, bam, bam.
You get it at worst once a week, Blake. It's daily.
So what are you doing in Washington, Jeff? Explain.
So we're doing the sheet here for the. Well, actually today's the last day, and then I'm off to Florida for games 3 and 4 of Toronto and the Florida Panthers. But here for the series. So we've got people sort of scattered all over from the Nation Network, and they said, "Where do you want to go?" And I said, "I want to go do Washington, Carolina." I know of the 4, it might not be the sexiest series, and I know that the Carolina Hurricanes are an acquired taste for hockey fans, but I really do. I might be in the minority here outside of Canes fans themselves. I really do like watching the Carolina Hurricanes, but from one very specific location, and that is Popcorn Row. I love watching Carolina from press row because you could really see what Rod Brindamore is doing here, and it's a fascinating team. Like you guys know, it's man to man all over the ice. So it's so unique to see a lot of open ice out there and no one able to do anything with it because Carolina skates in your hip pocket.
And Jeff, 94-34 on the shot attempts in game 1, we noted. I'm not sure I've ever seen that in a regular season game, let alone a Stanley Cup playoff game.
So a few years ago, I'll tell you a funny story about that, because the Carolina Hurricanes have always been the NHL's analytics darlings. And I remember talking to a Hurricanes player, this would have been 3-4 years ago, and we were talking about the reputation. And he said, all you have to do is watch our first period. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, they like to have a lot of shots and shot attempts. So we spend the first period, and this is the money quote, we spend the first period warming up our Corsi to keep everyone happy in the organization. But the interesting thing about this team is, as much as they are, the Corsi Kings and all that, and shot attempts and tilting the rink and all these types of things, it's a combination new school, old school, because A, nobody dumps it in, and B, nobody retrieves better than the Carolina Hurricanes. They are the
dumps in the corner.
They are the masters of surrendering the puck tactically. Carolina puts it in positions where hockey's, one of those wonderful sports where you actually surrender the object of play to improve your position on the field, or in this case on the ice. And Carolina are the masters of it.
Nobody punts like the Carolina Hurricanes. Good punts into the coffin corner. Nice soft dumps in the corner like a toddler. Yeah.
All right. Well, while we're talking coaching strategy, let's talk about who's going to be deploying their strategy with the Vancouver Canucks. And there's still a lot of question marks everywhere. News yesterday that Rick Tocchet maybe is still looking at the West Coast, albeit not in Vancouver, in Anaheim and Seattle. So what are you hearing out there in the wide world of coaches?
Seattle very much. Let's not forget here, too. He was the preferred candidate to be the first choice for the Seattle Kraken, right? That was the expectation. For whatever reason, it fell apart. Tocchet does have a relationship with new general manager Jason Botterill that goes back to the days of the Pittsburgh Penguins. So there's a family tie in Seattle as well with his son. It would not surprise anybody, I don't think, if he ended up the head coach The Seattle Kraken, despite what we heard from Jim Rutherford and that his preference was to go east. And I think we all went, okay, so where is he more loved, in Pittsburgh or in Philadelphia? And is there an outside shot at Boston as well? Like, I think all of it is in play for Rick Tocchet. I'm very much in the camp that I would not be surprised if Seattle is and does end up being the destination for Tocchet here. He almost went there once.
Why has it been so quiet around Boston, Philly, even Chicago?
It's not as if they're not interviewing. I mean, I'm always curious. To me, one of the most interesting days for assistant coaches are the off days in the playoffs where they're busy and, I can't call you back for between 7 and 9 tonight. I'm otherwise detained. Everyone's doing a good job right now, keeping everything on the DL. But this is the duck's legs underwater, right? Everyone's making their calls, everyone's having their Zooms, and I think a lot of us, we're waiting for dominoes to fall. That began with Sullivan. Looks like Quenneville's going into Anaheim, and you know what it's like when you guys have seen this before. When managers start to sense that the music is winding down and they start to count chairs, then all of a sudden you start to see coaches get picked off and hirings made quickly. It's kind of like in that second round when one team takes a goalie,
right? And
everyone freaks out and goes like, "Okay, the first goalie's gone. Now we got to take our goal. Now it's time for the goalies." You see it at the draft all the time.
And if Anaheim gets Quenneville done today, then that could very much spur the other teams that are seeking head coaches. Let's talk a little.
The only thing about that too is, the only thing about that is there are still some coaches and some assistant coaches that would be. Not so much head coaches, but of course assistant coaches that would be candidates that obviously can't be hired until their playoff runs are done.
Yeah. Let's talk a little about the sort of lesser known candidates.
Sure.
What can you tell us about Mike Vellucci and Mitch Love of Quesnel, British Columbia, as we keep
who is still in action? Who is still in action?
We'll see him tonight with Spencer Carberry on the bench with the Washington Capitals. I mean, Vellucci. Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm kind of surprised that it hasn't already happened for Mike Vellucci on the NHL level consistently. I think it's probably only a matter of time. But then I've been saying that for a long time. Mitch Love is an interesting name. If we can park a little bit of time to talk about Mitch Love, he's a fascinating guy. I was having a conversation with someone from another team last night who said Mitch Love is the next big young coach in the NHL. He's 40 years old. He's been on benches in the American League, and as you mentioned, he's on the bench with Spencer Carberry in Washington right now. He said he's the next big thing in the NHL, and Mitch Love one day will win Stanley Cups. And if you talk to any of the players that he's coached, they all love him. Like, he's very much a player's coach that way. The way he coaches is quite. If you just remember Mitch Love from the WHL. That's not how he coached. The way he played is not the way he coaches. He was, as you guys know, a really tough player in the Western Hockey League. He comes from a strong hockey background. His dad was a scout with Saskatoon, Tri-City, and I think Everett as well in the Western Hockey League. So he's kind of grown up around it his entire life. Did wonderful work in Saskatoon with the Blades. In through the American Hockey League with Stockton, in Calgary, was a finalist for the Calgary Flames job. I believe Spencer Carberry was a big supporter in bringing him in Washington. Like, if it doesn't happen this season for Mitch Love, it will happen eventually. Like, I'm glad you guys are bringing him up on your show, because the secret is not so much a secret anymore. That people are starting to understand, like, this guy is going to get hired in the NHL eventually, sooner than later. And I'm told that there's a number of teams interested.
The demographics of both of those guys are very different. Like, it's a 58-year-old, Vellucci, who, as you said, it hasn't happened. So if you're a team like the Canucks, I mean, you got a guy that you can theoretically grow with if it goes well in Mitch Love. And, I don't know how many more kicks at the can Mike Vellucci is going to get here at his age.
Yeah, and that might be the knock against someone like, I've always wondered about, Claude Julien with Vancouver as well. if you're the team that's like dying for a strong structure coach, I mean, Claude Julien is your guy. Mind you, he doesn't work for cheap. But yeah, you're right about that one. If you're looking for a coach that you're going to grow with, I mean, different teams, as you well know, Blake, are in different phases of their winning cycles. And for some, it's, we need someone here for the next 3 years. And then for other coaches, we need someone here for the next 5 or 6, whatever the coach's shelf lives are these days around the NHL.
Jeff,
you know what? Can I bring up one other name really quickly?
Sure.
Because
in a moment, let me just remind while it's fresh. We tried hiring the head coach of the team that beat us in the Stanley Cup final once before, Jeff. It didn't work very well. So Claude has that working against him.
Very well.
Lasted 1
year. I understand. Mm-hmm. Let me throw one name out there that isn't really out there and people aren't discussing a lot, but he is highly thought of in NHL circles, and that is Jay McKee. I believe there are teams that are interested. He coaches with OHL Brantford with the Bulldogs. Was a wonderful player. I always have a soft spot in my heart for shot blocking defensemen, because every time someone winds up and he goes down, that could be it for the career. And he had a wonderful career with Buffalo and St. Louis. Jay McKee is someone that is, let's just say, of interest for a couple of teams out there in this.
Yeah, and let me throw another name on the of interest pile. Todd Nelson. And one interim shot in the NHL with an Edmonton Oilers franchise that was a whole lot less functional when he took it over in 2014, 2015. He was the first coach that sort of got them somewhat turning the corner. Like, the record doesn't look great at 17-25-9, but you have to remember just how horrible the Oilers had been and just how dysfunctional the organization was. The other thing about Todd Nelson, he's won 3 Calder Cups as a head coach, including the last 2 with the Hershey Bears, 1 in Grand Rapids. He was an assistant to the legendary John Anderson and won a Calder Cup as well. And then he won 2 Colonial Cups as he was coming up his way with Mesquite. No, but it's just everywhere he goes, there
he's
tends
the Scotty
to be
Bowman of minor league hockey.
There's trophies. He's around a lot of trophies.
Yeah, I would, and it's interesting with the Hershey Bears, for every season, I always kind of feel bad. I know they could do Zoom calls and these types of things, but I always kind of feel bad for Todd Nelson because he's so highly thought of and has been a candidate in a number of places. The problem with Todd Nelson is just what you're talking about, Maddie. His teams go so far that, when the coaching hirings are happening,
he's never available.
He's still coaching.
That's
it's true. Like, honestly, the NHL and these coaches have to get together on this and say, okay, we can carve out a half an hour on a Zoom these days for an interview, even maybe on a game day.
And they do. But the interesting thing about this year, and we'll see what happens. Their Bears are in tough right now. Like, they may be out on Friday. Like, they may be out tomorrow, and Todd is free and clear to talk to anybody at any time. I had a conversation with someone the other day about it, and I brought up Vancouver because I know it's coming on today, and they said, we would expect that there would be some conversation there between Vancouver and Todd Nelson. Seattle also came up. I made my notes here. I was told Seattle, Boston, Pittsburgh, Vancouver, Chicago would be interested in having a conversation with Todd Nelson.
We're not here yet, but when is it weird that the Canucks don't have a coach? When do you think is like your eyebrow gets cocked a little bit? Are we first week of June, or are we still beyond that?
Well, Rutherford's already said he doesn't want to stretch this out. Right? So you take Jim Rutherford at his word, then you want to have somebody in place by the time the draft rolls around. Right? Like, you still want to get the preferred candidate. You don't want to wait till, we use the analogy of, the music slowing down and everybody grabbing their last chairs on the dance floor. I would say, like, within the next couple of weeks, I would imagine the picture becomes more clear where everybody is going to go and where everyone is going to land. But certainly by the time the draft rolls around, like, you want your new coach at the table.
I think so. You followed junior hockey closely. Give me a stud at number 15 in this draft for the Canucks.
If Vancouver gets lucky, I don't know that Kashan Aitchison is going to be there. Like, at the beginning of the season, you look at Kashan Aitchison, and for your listeners and viewers, Kashan Aitchison is a big, tough defenseman for the Barrie Colts. Really good skater, really strong. Like, he's a hard hitting, like, when he's out there, type defender.
I've heard him described as a throwback player, Jeff.
There's an element, and he's not shy to drop the gloves. Like, there is a very strong, as everybody, it's funny too, hey, Matty, like, everybody now is looking at, like, everybody can skate, everybody can pass, everybody can play, everyone can shoot. What else can you give me?
Yeah.
He's got that extra, what else can you give me? Which is very much more in vogue than it's ever been. I mean, so you do wonder about players falling. I don't know that Kashan Aitchison does, but if he does, there's your stud. Roger McQueen of the Brandon Wheat Kings has only played a couple of games. I just awful what has happened to his season with the injury. But I think that you've seen enough of a body of work from him that he probably shouldn't fall to 15, but if somehow he does, there's another stud for you. I do want to throw
He's giving Cody Hodgson a little bit, right? Canucks have gone down that road with back trouble.
I know,
with
with back issues. I know. I go, how many times did Vancouver Canucks fans be false started on a back issue? Don't remind us. We all watch those sagas play out. I like Cole Reshny with Victoria around 15. And the other player that I really like in that area, and maybe it's a little bit early, but Cameron Reed is a defenseman with the Kitchener Rangers who will have he'll play in your top four for 15 years. And we talked about, Mitch Love and growing up around it. His dad is the Power Edge Pro training system, the PEP system made famous by Connor McDavid. His dad is a PEP trained coach. So he's always been around it, and his dad had a big hand in training him as well. Great family, solid defenseman, good in all three zones. He's probably going to go between 15 and 25. And if I were the Vancouver Canucks and Cameron Reed was still available at 15, I'd have a really good hard look there.
Yeah, Aitchison, 6'2", 196. He's up to 71 points in 80 games, including playoffs this year, and 116 penalty minutes. So he fills out the box score, him.
Everything he does, Matty, is, I always like to say, Aitchison does everything for keeps. Every shot, every stride, every punch. That's
absolutely.
I don't think he's there at 15. He's just. But there's always one that falls. There's always one that we look at and say, "When?" Like last year was Yves Boyum, and what a score that was for the Minnesota Wild. With hindsight being 2020, there's always someone. There's always someone.
Give me the guy who walks into the dressing room and needs to win at ping pong. Give me that guy, the competitive guy who's not even going to give a quarter in ping pong.
And you know who that was in junior hockey, and he used to have legendary ping pong matches with Rocky Thompson when he coached the Windsor Spitfires. Was Mikhail Sergachev. The Mikhail Sergachev Rocky Thompson table tennis matchups they're actually legendary in OHL circles. That's what I lob up to you today. The story of Rocky Thompson,
pretty good,
like ping pong with Mikhail Sergachev. Bet you didn't.
Not a bad Easter egg
today when you woke up. There's your there you go. There's your Easter egg.
I just want to clarify. I think ability to play hockey first.
For sure.
Ping pong champion
for sure. Exactly. We're not drafting Forrest Gump here. So
Just I wanted to make that abundantly clear.
Yeah.
Fine.
Okay.
You have your criteria, Mr. Price. I have mine.
Need a short answer here, and then we'll get on to the Easter egg. Are we starting to get the sense this is Canada's year, Jeff? Like if I gave you the Canadian 3 versus the U.S. 5 right now, are you taking that bet that one of the Canadian teams lifts that chalice in June?
Winnipeg's been tough against, I want to say the Dallas Stars, but really I want to say Mikko Rantanen.
Right.
I've seen Toronto drive it into the ditch too many times.
From here. Yeah.
Okay. Like we've seen them steer this off the road. I'm really happy for Maple Leafs fans, and I'll resist the obvious, let's measure the bridges to see where the floats will fit underneath jokes. But maybe Edmonton. Yeah. Right? Like after those that scare early in the Kings series, everything changed when Quentin Byfield didn't chip that puck out. And they are playing with a determination now, and they've found a second line by moving Corey Perry to the first line that looks like it's going to do a lot of damage in these playoffs. And again, like I'm waiting for the clock to strike midnight on Pickard, but every time I say that, the Oilers win.
I know,
and he looks good. And we've seen goalies get hot for a stretch before. So, am I getting the soap and warm water feeling? I don't know that I've grabbed the bar of soap yet, but I've turned on the tap. How about that?
I hear what you're saying. Like, if Edmonton wins tonight and you got two Canadian teams up to buzz, like, all of a sudden the hype train is going to start here.
I've got a TFC game that I got to call on June 28th. I'm thinking that's parade day.
Thinks he might be there for the parade.
Yeah, I've got to find a new way to get to BMO because it's got to.
That's right.
Yeah,
right. And of course, the scouts won't be able to participate because we're going to run the Stanley Cup final into the draft, but it's going to be a hell of a parade. Okay. Gents, the Easter egg this week.
Okay.
Famously, the last Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup, the Montreal Canadiens in 1993. 32 years on. Which of the Canadian 7 has won the most postseason series in that time?
Ooh. I remember this stat from about 5-7 years ago. I remember trotting it out. I don't know where we're at now.
7 Canadian franchises have totaled for 72 postseason series victories in the last 32 years since the Cup resided in Canada. Who has won the most?
2 Cup visits for the Oilers since then. I'll go Oilers.
Jeff?
I'll take the Ottawa Senators.
I'm very disappointed in both of you, so here does come the admonishment, but particularly in Blake. The winner is the Vancouver Canucks at 14.
They were the leader.
They went to 2 Cups too, Blake.
I know, but they've had
and
a bit of a drought.
They, of course, had more success around the Oilers. Oh, we talked drought. Look at the Oilers drought. But here's, gents, this is really close. Canucks have won 14 postseason series. Edmonton and Montreal have won 13 in that time, so Edmonton could tie Vancouver.
Right,
here.
so it wasn't a crazy guess by me.
That's not crazy.
Yeah. Toronto and Ottawa have each won 11. And, of course, if the Leafs were to win 3 more, they would tie the Canucks at 14 as well. But that would not be the biggest story if they won 3 more. All right. Can't believe you guys went 0 for 2. They had a...
we're
each of them had a 1 in 7 chance, Mike, and
I was
especially the hockey historian savants guy.
Hang on. If you're gonna ask, if you're gonna expect me to answer trivia questions correctly, I'm gonna need more money. Okay. that's just the way it goes.
All right.
Duly noted. $11. $11 a week.
Yeah, exactly. Give you $1 for every Canucks postseason series win since '93.
You know the old saying, there's no I in team, but there's 2 I's in invoice. So you just bump her up a little bit there for your boy here.
Have a good time in Washington.
And Florida. Yes, we'll catch up next week.
Thanks, boys. Be good.
Sick Harrison Price from the Historic Wall Center.
And you know who else has got some good history? Toyota with electric vehicles. They were there right at ground zero with the Prius.
Yep.
And now they've got the BZ4X added in as well. The BZ4X, a fabulous car built for BC with just the right size to fit into parking spots.
Like when we took it for a test drive, I was so utterly impressed. Like, I am not a small person.
Yeah,
and
you got in there
not
fine.
only it was oodles of space, swimming in space.
And cargo for the hockey bag, the golf bag, whatever you need as well. Go take one for a test drive. That's what they say. Just get in. And you'll love it. Mm-hmm. And you'll never stop at a gas station. You'll be in the HOV lane for life. It'll be a fabulous life. Better life than what you're living right now. It really will be.
The interior cabin, the design is perfection.
Visit your Pacific Toyota dealer. Take one for a test drive. ShopToyota.ca. Many rebates, 0.99% financing available. Go check it out.
Like I detect white smoke.
That means Rob Williams.
Rob Williams, the national sports editor of the Daily Hive, and its Offside Sports vertical. Habemus Papem. He's here.
Habemus Daily Hive. Yes. Mm-hmm. We can AI that. Don't worry.
How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Yeah, very well. We bring up the new Pope because, Rob is riffing on that
Yeah.
on X.
Getting cheeky. Just to put it into context,
For those who are just listening on podcast, Rob Williams, there have now been 3 popes in the time the Canucks have been looking to build a new practice facility.
not even in the span of like trying to get back to the Stanley Cup final, just the practice facility part.
Yep. That's true.
Unbelievable.
It's true.
It seems this file is going to require divine intervention, Rob.
Well, they need I don't know. Apparently, they want someone to gift them some land, or I don't know what they need. Think about how much.
It's the damnedest thing.
The
No one is just
Archdiocese
gonna
might be able to
gift
help out
them
there.
land.
The Archdiocese might be able
It's
to.
true. The
Yeah.
Archdiocese was right down there at Robson and Beatty, and no
It'd be
longer.
a great spot, actually, for being
Here's the problem.
serious.
Here's the problem: the prices keep going up every year. They wait. They could imagine how cheap it would have cost if they built it when they first wanted to build it. So, yeah, still waiting for that.
All right. Well, it would not be your traditional partner.
Going to build the new cathedral
But
on
the
top of
Catholic
the
Church
rink.
does a lot in terms of
I
youth activities, services.
actually think
sports.
it's a rock worth turning over.
Why not?
You've
tried everybody else.
Yeah.
Maybe we have
The previous posts were no help to the
No,
practice.
exactly. Maybe the new Pope thinks it a good marketing tool, right? Yes.
Yep.
Let's attach our brand to sports.
Hey, we need somebody new to blame for the Canucks' woes. Easy to point the finger. You've got an update, speaking of facilities.
well, seat beat is gone off here. This week, Rob.
They're not putting in pews, are they?
Guys, I was ready on Tuesday when this dropped, late afternoon Tuesday. I thought maybe an emergency podcast.
Wow.
You guys do a great job, but I thought that maybe was a missed opportunity. The seats are here. They've begun ripping out en masse the maroon seats at last. Like, finally, right? This was supposed to happen. I brought it up before, but the seat beat kicked off on the Sakaris and Price show on the old station 7 years ago now, when Jeff Stipek brought it up, former Canucks COO.
Who said it was on the verge, that it was happening in short order. I mean, the seat beat has almost been a longer pursuit.
Compared to practice facilities,
as
has been
practice
short order.
facility. In fact, if they don't hurry up, the maroon seats are going to see a 4th Pope here later this afternoon.
Yeah, so and we saw obviously just like that one little section of the new black seats that got installed, and then nothing. But now we're seeing like an entire section of the club seat section being yanked out, and we've got like the Canucks have shared the photos. The seats are there. It's official. They are putting them in. So. We're going to see this over the summer. I think that there's only one event scheduled at Rogers Arena in May, so you'd think they'd be able to do quite a bit of work then. But I think when people start going to concerts in June, July, you're going to start seeing photos appear where, okay, maybe half the lower bowl's done. Okay, maybe now all of the lower bowl's done. Now they're into the upper bowl. So. They promised that they would be doing it this summer, and it is now like fully underway, and they've got cup holders, so people are excited about that.
No blue and green smoke yet, which means the Canucks still do not have a head coach, and actually much like Pope Benedict, who walked off the job before Pope Francis.
Very, very rare.
It's very rare for an NHL head coach to just walk away from the gig and then begin applying elsewhere. He didn't get the Anaheim gig, Rick Tocchet, but it just sort of sunk in to me today, Rob, that he really did just walk away, and he's plying his trade elsewhere, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I do. Ultimately, I think he knows.
Were you in conclave over the last couple of weeks without your phone?
I guess it just sort of, in my mind, it was just like, it didn't work out, negotiations, blah, blah, blah. It just didn't dawn on me really till today is like, No, he just walked away. It's weird.
I think he knows he's got one of these jobs, right? And we're seeing reports out now where it's like he's pretty well got his pick, after Mike Sullivan lands with the Rangers, which I thought might have been an interesting spot for Tocchet. He's probably got his pick of a number of jobs. I think he knew that when he left Vancouver. Does he leave the Vancouver job if he doesn't think he has any of these other jobs? I don't know. If he can go back to TNT if he wants, but does he want that? I mean, he strikes me as a guy that really loves coaching and wants to do that. I think he just it's no different from a player, right? If you walk a player right to July 1st, well, suddenly, why am I going to re-sign with you when I can just listen to what all the other teams have to say? There might be a better situation for me. There might be more money. There might be a lot of different things. So why not do that? And obviously it's a bit of a tire fire in Vancouver. So, I keep coming back to why didn't they re-sign him last summer? Why didn't they sign him to an extension? I don't understand why they let it get to this point, but they did. And I think it's rare, but it makes a ton of sense. You're an in-demand coach. And you can go wherever you want.
If Rick winds up coaching Philly or Pittsburgh, or maybe even Boston too, I think a lot of Canucks fans will get it, right? Particularly the Pennsylvania teams, based on Rick's history with them.
Yeah.
If Tocchet winds up coaching the Seattle Kraken or the Chicago Blackhawks, Rob, we were asking this yesterday. Do Canucks fans have a right to be a little miffed at that, feel a little betrayed if he walks off this job to take the one down the I-5 or go join the tire fire that is the Blackhawks?
Pittsburgh and Philly, to me, do not look like desirable spots. I know he played there. I know he coached in Pittsburgh as well. I know he had a ton of success there. But, if you're Rick Tocchet, he's not getting any younger here. Do you want to win a Stanley Cup or not? I don't see those as spots where he can win Stanley Cups. Chicago, I get it. Original 6 franchise, you got Connor Bedard, should be on the way up. But again, that's going to take, how many years away are they? I feel like that's probably a spot where he can help them grow, and then he gets fired for the next coach to come in and win a Stanley Cup. Seattle, there's not, they're missing those key building blocks. They're missing the superstars in the making. They don't have those guys. So how do you win there? To me, it would be a bit of a head scratcher if he goes somewhere that's not closer to a Stanley Cup than the Canucks. And I don't think the Canucks are close to a Stanley Cup, but they've got Quinn Hughes. They've got some things here. I don't know what these other markets really have in the way of getting him closer to that goal.
Have you got a front runner? Have you got a favorite in your mind?
Yeah, give me your front runner.
Yeah, I'm sort of thinking just in terms of the profile of a guy that the Canucks need here, and the talk about Adam Foote just sort of kind of has me miffed as well. Okay, Quinn Hughes likes Foote, great. Do you know what Hughes likes more than Adam Foote? Winning hockey games. Bring in the coach that's going to win the most hockey games. Maybe Adam Foote turns out to be a good National Hockey League head coach. But quite frankly, he doesn't have the resume for it, right? He's had that 1 year in junior that didn't go well as running his own bench. He's had a couple of years behind an NHL bench with Rick Tocchet. So he's, learned under Tocchet, but let's be real here. And keeping Quinn Hughes happy, all of this talk about do they need to go and have a, sign this guy or have a good year next year. I think they have to have a good year next year, at least a positive year. They've got to show him some progress, though, I think. And I think there needs to be hope for the future for him to re-sign with a team. There's no good saying okay, last year was good, we made the playoffs, but it's not looking so good in the next 5 years, right? In terms of finding that guy, I think they need to find a guy that's going to obviously win hockey games. What's the biggest key to getting this team back on track? I think it's getting Elias Pettersson back on track. So can they find someone to unlock that talent? I do think that, so spoiler alert, the guy I think that I kind of have my eye on, and I'm talking myself into him more and more and more, is Jay Woodcroft. Look at Jay Woodcroft's record with the Oilers. Yeah, he's coaching McDavid and Draisaitl. He got fired after a bad 13 games. Like, otherwise, his record in Edmonton was excellent.
And his defense and goaltending were as bad as his forwards were
If
good.
he gets a few more saves, he is still the coach of the Edmonton Oilers.
Exactly. And the type of guy I really like, I think having somebody that's a little bit younger, he's 48 years old, I think that might be a good way to kind of connect with Pettersson. I think there could be something there. He's obviously got tons of years as an assistant coach, tons of years or not tons of years, but success at the AHL level as a head coach. He's had the 2 years in Edmonton. I also think it's really key. I think it's key having NHL experience, first of all, especially when you're walking into a market like this. You're walking to a place where the media pressure is high. You're walking into a place where you need to be careful what you say. And you're walking to a place where there's expectations on winning. You're not going to have like 2 years to sort of just figure it out. So I think having NHL experience already, I think most coaches are better in their second stop than their first stop. And also having experience in a Canadian market, where you're getting asked tough questions. Like in Edmonton, you get asked tough questions in Edmonton, I think. So yeah, I think he's got the resume for that, and if not him, someone like him. I view that more as the type of guy rather than like the Peter Laviolettes that have maybe a bit of a prickly reputation. A guy that's into his 60s now might have a little tougher time connecting with the younger players. So that's what I've got my eye on.
Yeah. Do the lesser known names, the Mike Vellucci's, Mitch Love, Todd Nelson's, do they do anything for you? Should they do anything for the Canucks? And how do you think the reception would be from the fan base if it's an assistant or an AHL head coach, someone who isn't quite as known to the market?
Yeah, I mean, like ultimately, I think the fan reaction, like if they hire Manny Malhotra, people will love it, right? Will he be a great coach here? I'm not sure. I will say, of the guys that don't have a lot of experience, Malhotra seems like he, again, younger guy, he's had some success being an assistant coach, but being an assistant coach in Vancouver and Toronto, I think of all places, I think would help him prepare him for this type of role. So that will be like, people will love that because people in Vancouver love Manny Malhotra. Now, is that the right move though? I don't know. If they hire a Mitch Love or somebody, Mike Vellucci, somebody else that's lesser known, I don't think it'll excite fans in the same way. But ultimately, that doesn't matter. Like, can you win? Who's gonna be who's the right choice? Who's the guy that's gonna get them the most wins? Ultimately, that's the guy that's gonna make a lot of things better for the Vancouver Canucks.
All right, Rob. Well, Seatbeat is coming to a conclusion.
Yeah,
I can't imagine how sad that makes you. It has been such a big part of your media career here. And,
I think he has to go
we
on
all
like a
have to
global
adapt.
journey.
Yeah, exactly.
Go find yourself.
We're going to need
pray,
to
love.
find a new dead horse for you to beat.
We are not done yet, guys. Like, first of all, let's see them all. First of all, let's see them all in place by
Let's
puck
finish
drop.
Installation. Yeah, he's got a few more.
Are there going to be maroon seats still hanging around in preseason? So let's see how that goes. Are there going to be an interruption?
Aesthetic so heinous of a few maroons still clinging on.
I'll be disappointed.
Will tariffs interrupt the delivery of the seat? Where are these seats coming from? I'm not sure how that's going. Also, guys, there's cup holders on the back of those seats. I don't know if you've been to games, been to games at Rogers Arena and noticed like there's not a ton of room
No.
when you have to stand up and let somebody walk right by you. Are people going to be banging their knees,
Snapping them off.
Right.
Snapping them off. Are they
Oh
going to
my
break
God.
kind of
them?
quality
Think
of
of the
these? Yeah.
storylines. I mean, it's clear
Yeah.
he has thought about this comprehensively, and there are going to be many sidebars to write between now
I'll be disappointed
and next September.
if you don't have a man cave, a basement rec room that is just maroon
you
seats.
should get
Okay.
a maroon
rows
seat,
and
Rob.
rows of
Okay,
You really
I've
should,
also-
as a testament to how far you've come.
I've reached out to the Canucks to ask what is going to happen with the old Maroons.
You're worried about them.
Because
You're worried about
I'm
this
interested
guy.
in this. Because you got 18,000 seats. Are these all going to the dump? I mean, I think the Canucks. I think they're gonna find a way to cash in on this. Little
Yes.
pocket.
Sell them off.
Auction them off? Like,
Yeah.
are there people who feel sentimental about their maroon
The
seats?
beer-soaked seats.
Yeah, exactly.
I do.
Son, this was the seat I was sitting in when Alex Burrows slayed the dragon, and then I jumped back into it, and it
Yep.
broke.
I was talking to Noah yesterday about like what would you pay for a maroon seat. I would pay some money for a maroon seat. I feel like I need to have one of these seats at this point. I need.
This
need
is
one in
Stockholm
my
syndrome.
place.
It is.
Yeah.
He just
I
lost
need
me.
one of these. Yeah.
7 years, he was very good on this file, and right at the end, he blew it.
Reporters that are
When you say good money, like $100 plus, you'd pay for the seat, or $50.
I $50. I do it without blinking.
It's a done deal.
Yeah, done deal. So I don't know what the
my
price
God.
point is going to be on this. I mean, there can't be, people with this kind of like illness like I have here to want these maroon seats.
No,
You've got
no, there
18,000 of
couldn't
them
be.
to move. They got 18,000 of them to move.
Right.
But yeah, there you go.
spend the money on therapy,
There you
not
go.
the seats.
I just
please.
hope someone at Canucks Sports Entertainment is listening. They could bring a great idea to their boss here.
Yeah.
And one of them said he'd spend 50 flat, easy. Boss, I think we can mark these up to 99.99.
times 17,000.
Yeah,
That's a
exactly.
lot of dough.
Yeah, plus
They should
tax,
hire.
plus
They should
an
hire
admin
me as a
fee.
brand ambassador to help move more of these here.
They really should.
Yeah.
They really should. Glad you're with us.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
Sekeres and Price from the historic Wall Center, where you turn game night into a game weekend. Book your stay here at the Wall. Enjoy an exclusive Sekeres and Price rate. Call the hotel 604-331-1000. Mention our names. Some blackout date supply based on availability.
The next time you're on the golf course, it's time to turn 4 into 4, like on a par 3, or 5, even 6. Because getting those scores now on the golf course, not a bad thing with bogey juice. Apple, ginger, top shelf vodka, a zesty drink for the summer and spring that will make every round, even the bad ones, feel like a winning round. Go to bogeyjuice.com, use the code SP15, get 15% off your purchase, which could include the individual serving sizes or the big bottles where you can pour a cocktail. Bogeyjuice.com, and the merch, spectacular.
Pope Leo on the throne of St. Peter for a matter of minutes, already producing miracles. The Seattle Mariners lead the American League West by 3 games, Blake, after taking 2 of 3 from the Athletics.
Given that roster,
That is the migrants team that is searching for a home.
given that roster, that must be divine intervention.
They're the second best team in the AL after Detroit, and we're heading into Jays in Seattle weekend. It is the first time it has been held this early in the schedule since 2011, when they actually played the 3rd series of the year in April.
Really?
In Seattle. It was in September in 2016 and early June before school got out in 2017. But of course, it's usually a July or August series. All those Canadians and Jays fans that invade Seattle, I think, going to be more subdued this year. I know our friend Steve Young of the Province did a piece on this yesterday. You volunteered my case to Steve. So sure enough, I spoke to Steve about it. Between tariffs, politics, the Canadian dollar, elbows up, Canadians travel to the U.S. is way down. School, of course, is still in.
Yeah.
And let's face it, this is not the most inspiring Blue Jays team either.
But even without the inspiring roster of the Jays, or lack thereof, the Mariners have to be pissed. Like, this is guaranteed sellout weekend
Well, they do have some control, and the dirty little secret was, as much as Mariners fans and Seattle media complained about all the Blue Jays fans taking over their stadium and their city,
We're going to see the alternative this weekend.
the hotels district, the restaurants, the bars, the stadium, and the Mariners were quite happy about it because it was guaranteed huge crowds
Yep.
and a lot of money flowing into town. Canadians lose 7-9 in Spokane. Hell of a ball game for between the two teams. Adrian Pinto, 2 home runs. He is tied for the Northwest League lead at 7. Sean Keyes drives in 3, but the bully blows it late, and Vancouver's lost 3 in a row. They need some home cooking, and they'll get it Tuesday at the Nat versus Everett, the M's farm team. For Asahi night, Hazel May next Saturday, bobblehead giveaway next Sunday, and a 6-game homestand against some very good Mariners prospects. We'll tell you more about them next week. Tickets 604-872-5232 or CanadiansBaseball.com. BC Lions, where main camp starts on Sunday. Rookie camp is underway. And Canadian receiver Braden Lenius, a Carson Graham grad, was supposed to be in the mix there with Justin McInnes, Javon Cotoy. He has decided to retire, and that means more opportunity for Ryzen John, the SFU and Vancouver College product. You may remember we had him on the show way back when he was making his NFL bid with the New York Giants. He's been with the Calgary Stampeders the last couple of years, and I was at a BC Lions event a few weeks ago, and people were telling me Nathan Rourke in informal workouts has been very impressed with the 6'7" John. Huge catch radius there during their informal workouts. He should get more opportunity now with Lenius's retirement. Zach Caleros suspended again.
His phone apparently
An email
does not work, and his email does not work.
Did not respond to the Canadian Center for Ethics in Sports for off-season drug testing. The CFLPA says it's bad process, that they've got to find a better way to get the CCES in touch with players in the off-season.
He thought it was, he saw a strange number, so didn't answer.
Yeah,
Which,
who dis?
so we get that one. And then he got a text, which I would love to see what the text says. He says he thought it was spam. Again, delete.
Yeah.
I mean, don't you have to have your feelers out if you're a player?
And then at that point, does the Canadian Center for Ethics in Sport not call the Blue Bombers and say, look, we've been trying to get a hold of your quarterback, and we haven't been able to reach him?
Yeah.
Speaking of quarterbacks, the Canadian Taylor Elgersma of Wilfrid Laurier University signing with the Green Bay Packers. Good luck to him. A couple of Canadian quarterbacks going to be in the NFL next year, with Curtis Rourke, of course, drafted by San Francisco. Whitecaps, they get Brian White and Matthias Laborda back at training. We'll see about their availability for Sunday's big game at BC Place, 4 p.m. kickoff against LAFC. Still no Ryan Gauld.
Yeah.
Of course, LAFC, their playoff rival.
Yes. Going
Right?
back a couple of years.
Yeah.
I think on Gauld, if I'm them, I want to make sure Gauld's available for the CONCACAF final because Berhalter is not, right? So and you don't want to rush him back. You want to make sure that he's mint for that game. If more time means that he's more ready, this could be a bit of a grimy game against LAFC. Maybe keep him out of this one, and you still got 3 games, I think, left before the CONCACAF final. This time next week, if he's not training, and it doesn't have to be even full training, but if he's not out there training at half speed next week, I'm a little concerned about his availability for the CONCACAF final. And with no Berhalter, no Gauld, that's a concern. I mean, Cruz Azul, by all accounts, very good team.
Yes.
Force to be reckoned with. And without a true attacking midfielder, you'd have to put Vite, I guess, into that role exclusively.
He's been okay this year.
Yeah, he's been very good.
He's maybe the league MVP.
But with no wingman for him, I guess it's Sabi and Vite, maybe. I don't know.
We told you this was coming. It's official now. The home match versus Portland, May 31st, has been rescheduled. Obviously, they played Cruz Azul the next day, so they couldn't play this match as scheduled.
Kicked all the way to September.
Yeah, kicked to September 24th at 7:30.
A lot of people were hoping that
BC Place.
they would postpone the 28th game, the Wednesday game as well. That doesn't appear to be happening.
That ain't going
Talked
anywhere.
to people too about that. It doesn't look like that's going to happen, which means while you're kind of conceding that game, aren't you? Or you're going to be dressing Whitecaps FC 2 in that match because you need to make. I mean, you're playing for a trophy a few days later. You have to have everybody 100% for that match.
The WHL Prospects Draft took place yesterday, formerly the Bantam Draft. And this is something that Blake and I have been chronicling for years. Sinai Sapergi started this way back when at the Toronto Star, looking at the given names, the first names of highly touted 15-year-old hockey prospects.
We do have an insider with us on location today, entered Jaden Tasia.
Yeah.
Who would fit the bill for a WHL draft pick by virtue of his Den name, J Den, Bray Den.
We were a little light on ends this year. There was a Kalen, there was a Tegan.
Okay, good.
The second round brought us a Avon, which is new to me.
That's new. Any sound in front of N works, by the way. Any sound.
But Blake, listen to the first 4 picks here in the dub draft.
Okay.
The first overall, Maddox Schultz.
Beautiful.
Second overall from Vancouver, Holden Woders.
Holden. There you go. There's the Den.
Third overall from Langley, Liam Pugh. And then number 4, the pièce de résistance, the first ever Bantam draft pick of the Penticton Vs, Thor Lifferton. I kid you not. The kid's name is Thor, Thor, last name Lifferton, Liffiton.
When is the first Steve Johnson kind of name?
There will never be a Steve Johnson taken first overall again.
Just go down the list. When is the first time you see a guy that could be an accountant? Like in his next life?
No way. No chance.
You don't see it?
Vancouver Giants get in on the act as well. Their first 2 picks, Lewis Oscar Hollowaychuk.
It's a mouthful.
And Crosby Matejchuk, who's the brother of Denton Matejchuk, a good prospect defenseman. Also in the first round, we got a Kane, an Athens, a Cohen, Cohen, this is first name, and then a Cohen, Cohenn. The theme really was last names as first names. You had a couple of Cohens, then you had a kid named Cruz Jim. Not Jim Cruz. Cruz Jim. There was a Roan, not Chapel, and then the best first name, or the best dual name in the first round. Like, how about Cash Elke? Cash with a K.
Yeah.
7 British Columbians in round 1. Couple others in the second round that you just know on name are going to be NHL. Oh, Drayden. There was a Drayden in the second round. Forgot about that. A couple in the second round. You just know they're going to be NHL players. How about Carter Nash? Can you not see him playing left wing for the Blues at some point in his career? And then Bauer Sullivan.
So just to recap,
they're named after the skate.
Just to recap the first round. Logan, Cohen, Rowan, Cohen, Athens, Cahan, Tegan, Kalen, Nolan. That's all in the first round. Holden. And then Holden.
Holden, yeah.
That's all in the first round.
I mean, I got to hand it to these parents. They are getting better and better at this exercise with each passing year. Like, we used to be entertained by a Braden spelled differently, like Braeden.
Oh, so exciting.
Awesome. Very stylish. Now they have just cranked up the creativity.
Half the first names end with N. Half of them.
But again, Thor Lifferton.
It's good. Cruz Jim. My
That
goodness.
could be a WWE wrestler. And now, with his manager, Mr. Fuji, here comes Thor Lifferton from Parts Unknown.
I've got a membership at Cruz Gym. It's got really good
Good Nautilus.
Good Nautilus. Good free weights. You know, I'm bulking.
Appropriate stack of towels.
And right now, if you sign up at Cruise Gym, you'll get a first month free.
For Saskatoon Blades games.
Yeah.
We have a new pope, Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, the first
Not a
ever
WHL pick.
American pope. No. Robert Prevost, maybe if he was in the queue. Robert Prevost.
Chicoutimi, Selects.
First American pope. He is born in Chicago. Keep that in mind here. And educated at Villanova University in Philadelphia, a Catholic school and
Math major.
Augustinian school. Blake, hear me out here. Villanova has won 3 NCAA basketball championships in their history. The first was in 1985. They were the highest, to this day, they are the highest seed ever to win the NCAA basketball tournament. They were an 8th seed. They played Patrick Ewing's juggernaut Georgetown team in the final. And Blake, the game is known as the perfect game because Villanova shot 79% from the floor. I believe it is still to this day the NCAA record.
The immaculate game.
And it happened in the final. And then in 2016, Villanova won the championship when that kid Chris Jenkins hit the half-court shot against North Carolina. Blake, Pope Leo has already performed miracles for his alma mater.
God loves Villanova.
He's also a Cubs fan. So as one baseball writer put it, you know he cares about the less fortunate.
Mm-hmm.
Annie Agar, Chicago has produced a Pope before a 4,000-yard passer. To which I replied, hey, Robert Francis Prevost may be the Pope, but Caleb is Jesus.
Don't worship false idols.
Good use of graphics from the NFL draft recently. The Cardinals pick is in. And Mel Kiper is furious it's not Shedeur Sanders. And then lastly, I can't believe the Vatican is announcing the new Pope while wearing their City Connect uniforms. The Swiss Guard. Best uniforms on the continent. Huh?
They really
Look
should
at
jazz
that
those
regalia.
up. They should jazz that up with neon colors, sort of like Miami Heat do. You know?
It's the appropriate bagginess, right, for an NBA short, going back to MJ and the Fab Five Michigan Wolverines. Loose. Great color there. Red, yellow, blue.
I'm happy for them that it's not an August conclave because that would have that'd be pretty warm.
Yeah, instead it's an Augustinian.
Yeah. Like what you did there.
Thank you. Poll question results. As a Canucks fan, will you feel betrayed if Rick Tocchet is coaching in the NHL this season? Yes, no, or depends on the team? What won the poll?
Depends on the team.
No.
Not betrayed.
Canucks fans, very forgiving
No
already
kidding.
in
Wow.
the spirit here. 65% said no.
65?
2 out of 3. Proud of you, Canuck Nation.
Wow.
Depends on the team, got 19% of the vote. Yes, got 16% of the vote. Already. The new Pope. Curing bitterness. Ricky says no because his style of hockey is boring. Ask season ticket holders in Phoenix. Hold up, Ricky. We got a news story here. You're aware of season ticket holders in Phoenix?
Also,
They would still be the Coyotes if they had season ticket holders.
Also, that is ancient history now. Wouldn't you just ask Canucks season ticket? The home record in Vancouver has
Ricky.
been dreadful.
Missed the mark. Greg, not betrayed at all, but I do hope the Canucks get their shit together this season and make him look bad. Real bad.
Might be difficult.
And then Adam says he's getting booed no matter where he goes. Do you think he gets booed upon his return? I don't think so. Smattering, but I think it will be more cheers than it is boos.
I'll go against that. I'll say it's not like deafening boost, but I think it's a pretty noticeable boost.
Yerke has caught me on an error and omission. I mentioned that the NLL's Colorado Mammoth was an existing franchise, one state over from the Utah now Mammoth hockey team. Apparently, they consulted and got permission or at least blessing from the Colorado Mammoth.
Clearly, yes.
One is going with the hashtag Tusk Up. One is going with the plural Tusks Up.
That's an unfortunate mammoth that just has the singular tusk, like a tri-dog. Yeah.
Perhaps he
lost it in battle. Yeah,
or perhaps it just froze off. It was the first thing to go.
So cold.
Anything to self-report? Anything further? I mean, we have a new pope. You can confess here, Blake. What did you screw up this week?
Nothing that springs to mind. Let me just check the inbox. No. Nothing. Scot-free.
Thanks for joining us, everybody, on this momentous day. We appreciate you spending some time, carving out some time for this little program and connecting with us. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. If we get to 10,000 YouTube subs, Blake would be so happy.
Man. Yeah.
Please do follow on social, X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky. We are live on many of those platforms at noon Pacific time. And, of course, support the community sponsors we keep telling you about and keep it local.